I have a story about how I faced difficult relationships in the family. My mother hoped to restore ties with my brother, despite his terrible actions, and tried to force me to maintain this contact. I thought about my boundaries and attempts to protect myself. After several conflicts, I decided to distance myself from all trips to my home hill. But the further I went, the more I realized that the past doesn't let go for nothing. I recently had a conflict with my mother for 7F. It happened after Christmas, and I doubt if I went too far in my act. Background: my mother divorced my stepfather 5 years ago and moved in with her partner Jessica for 8G. At that time, I was in college, and my younger brother 17M moved with my mother, as my stepfather was recognized as cruel and life-threatening and treated military PTSD. POP, a man with whom TS's mother divorced, TSU's stepfather and father to his brother divorce, of course, intensified and aggravated many problems that my brother had, which, first of all, manifested itself on his behavior at school: bad grades, problems with other children. At that time, it turned out that he had a rather strong porn addiction. He communicated with adult men on the internet and tried to steal credit cards and money to buy access to various chats. We also found that he cut himself and stole Jessica's drugs, such as Xanax and promethazine. POP. Xanax is a powerful sedative, in fact a tranquilizer in a large dosage, and promethazine is generally an antihistamine drug. But in large dosage it was previously used to enhance the effect of anesthesia and pain relief. My mother, stepfather, and Jessica joined forces to help him, booked him for therapy, took him to different specialists, and eventually sent him to a psychiatric hospital. For about 3 months, we all took turns visiting him, trying to provide him with comfort while he was being treated in the hospital. When my brother came back, everything was fine for a while, but then the problems began to appear again. At first, he lied about us to his friends to such an extent that his friends' parents contacted our mother and stepfather about the alleged violence. Then he lied to the doctor about it and really called the rescue service. The case was closed because he said that the abuse of him reached the point that he was beaten every day, that he was not fed, and he had nowhere to sleep. Imagine the employee's face when she entered his fully furnished room with a mini fridge, expensive gaming systems, branded clothes, and saw a fully equipped kitchen. It didn't help that all the respondents had no idea about the events that, according to him, had happened. After the case was closed, my brother redoubled his efforts. He started trying to incite my mother and stepfather against each other. He stopped visiting him and claimed that it was because his mother wouldn't allow him. And then I told my mom that my stepfather speaks badly about her and doesn't talk to my brother because he's gay. He even lied to my mother and said that our cousins, aunt, and uncle on the mother's side threatened to beat him for being gay. All this wasn't true, and in the end he confessed everything. Then he tried to bring a discord into the relationship between his mother and Jessica, but by that time his trust had faded, so nothing terrible had happened. When it didn't work, he tried to poison Jessica by sticking pills into her food. But it didn't work just because she noticed that bubbles appeared in the food and it tasted like soap. She spit out the food and he finally confessed. At that moment, my mother was at the limit and began to punish him in a different way. She began to deprive him of leisure and extracurricular activities. So no more Xbox or Nintendo Switch. There were no more fun weekend trips. And he just went to school and returned home. Everything continued basically the same way. He did something and then received some kind of punishment. He behaved well for some time, and the punishment was removed from him. He immediately arranged something and again received punishment. Everything reached its peak last year when he came home from school, and the principal called my mother and told him that one of the students had filed a complaint against him for harassment and harassment. Apparently, he liked the boy who wanted to be with him only as an experiment. And when they broke up, my brother did not accept it and constantly tried to find him at school and pursue his friend to contact that boy. The principal also said that my brother stole a sweatshirt from that student. So my mom went to his room while my brother was with my father to look for this sweatshirt. When she was looking for it, she found a notebook with disturbing drawings on the cover. She looked through it and found detailed plans on how and when to kill her mother, stepfather, Jessica, me, and the boy from school. This caused us panic because, in addition to the fact that Mom found this notebook, he ran away from his father's house and was found the next day at his friend's parents'. He was taken to the hospital to make sure that he was all right, and it was decided that he would be sent to another psychiatric clinic. He stayed there for about a month and came out of there unrepentant and indifferent to all the stress caused by his actions. When he came out, it was decided that he would stay first with his father, not with our mother. He has been there since January 2024. Situation: now that he lives with his father, my mother began to do everything possible to make him love her again. She rushes between buying his love and constant visits to him in his spare time. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to want anything to do with her, Jessica, and me. Christmas was a few days ago, and Mom invited him to come to us. And this resulted in the fact that he visited from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Christmas Day, which was a lot for me. Mom and Jessica seemed to enjoy his presence, but I couldn't help but feel anxious. Even our dog was careful with him and actually stayed next to me all day. I felt on the verge after his attempt to poison Jessica, and the discovery of his list only aggravated my condition. At the age of 17, he looks like a midfielder P in America. Football is usually a big, shouldered strong man in the team, and my mother just invited him to a house full of women who are unable to defend themselves. He always has such a look when he looks at me, Mom, and Jessica, but they don't seem to notice it. When we discussed his visit, I just asked him not to be alone with him, and everyone agreed. Then, when he arrived, Mom and Jessica immediately went upstairs for a long time, leaving me to cook with him downstairs, in the living room. He was mostly silent, but he grinned all the time and eventually began to sit behind the kitchen island, just watching me. We had dinner. He was mostly silent, just looking at me or looking at Jessica. Then he says sharply, "Now I'm a pansexual and I'm dating a girl." They started talking to him about this change, but he just kept watching. As a result, I just went back to my room upstairs with the dog and stayed there until my father came for him. Yesterday, Mom, Jessica, and I talked about his visit, and they spent a good 20 minutes talking about how happy they were to see him and how he grew up. They realized that I was silent and asked my opinion. I said everything was fine. They kept pressing until I said everything that was said above. My mother got angry with me, saying that I need to be open-minded and that I react too sharply. She said that I should be a good older sister and stretch an olive branch. I told her that I would not do anything like that and that I have every right to feel anxious about the fact that the dangerous person is in a place that I consider safe. He came after talking and admitting his desire to take my life and even tried to do it with Jessica. I can't forgive him for this. Even if nothing happened, he never apologized or changed his behavior. I told her that she was a fool without noticing these signs, and that although she may be happy to play for the family, she should not forget that her name was also on the list. After this conversation, my mother became quite detached and even began to spend even more time with him. Jessica and I talked, and she agreed with me, but also said that I need to take into account that he is also her child, and he needs parents. So, MLYA. For lines, my brother tried to poison my mother's partner and made a list of murders, which my mother, stepfather, stepmother, and me got into. This year, he is leaving to live with his father and coming to us for Christmas. He came for 12 o'clock and behaved strangely. I told my mom that I wouldn't forgive him for the list, and now she's mad at me. January 20th, 2025, 3 weeks later, it's been 2 weeks since I returned to campus. And it's both bad and good at the same time. Thanks to many people who left their comments and wrote to me, I was able to develop an action plan to 1. Talk to my mother and Jessica about my brother and 2. Find the means to stay away forever if things go wrong. About a week and a half ago, I met my mom and Jessica to fully explain everything I feel. I told her that I feel that she still sees her child in him and does not take him seriously. and that now that he has decided to continue living with his father, she wants to do everything for which she criticized his father. I told her that, in my opinion, her reaction to my brother puts us at risk and that her actions are most likely largely related to her unresolved trauma in her relationship with her own parents and resentment at the way her mother treated her compared to her brother. She did not deny this statement, fully admitted her guilt. Mom said that over time she recognized the signs, but she didn't know how to stop because she didn't want to lose him forever. It seemed to her that if she didn't do it, she would end up being what her mother was. Jessica started talking after that and apologized for her initial reaction to my feelings and for not taking my fears seriously when I first spoke about them. For her part, she said that she simply does not see him as a threat and believes that if it came to a fight, she would protect the family and herself by any means if he tried to do something. So she just assumes that I felt the same. I thought that with these new revelations, we could find the best way to improve relations with my brother. But then my mother put an end to it. She doesn't want to change anything. In her opinion, she is close to a breakthrough in the relationship with my brother and will not change anything, as she believes that this will interfere with progress. She asked me to just work on my emotions and promised that as soon as he was cured, we could move on. At the same time, Jessica got angry with her mother for me. She fell on my mother, reminding that she has two children, not one, and it is incredibly selfish and unceremonious to expect that one child will cope only so that she can maintain an unsuccessful relationship with another child, which, in the end, caused the consequences in which he is now. She said, I quote, "You continue to babysit this boy, and then you wonder why he doesn't respect you." After which my mother burst into tears and went to her ex-husband, my stepfather, and my brother. Surprise, surprise. My mother left her disabled wife to live with her ex-husband and brother in the house they used to share. Jessica is understandably upset because they have had problems for a long time, and this may be the last nail in the lid of the coffin of their relationship. Since she left, she hasn't answered anyone's calls, just like my brother and stepfather. I stayed with her until the last day before the start of classes. During this time, it seems to me that Jessica and I have become even closer. We already got along pretty well, but I think for the first time I realized what it's like when someone covers you. Even when she was in pain, she constantly checked me to make sure that I was coping with everything and that I was preparing for the semester. I tried to spend as much time with her as possible, because she doesn't have many relatives. We even included a certain rapper performing at the Super Cup this year. She has become his staunch fan since the show began. Before I left, she gave me some papers. She said it was supposed to be my graduation gift. But in the light of recent events, she doesn't know what will happen in the future and asks for permission to adopt me. I can't describe the wave of emotions that came to me. My own father didn't want to take me. And my stepfather literally said, "I'll change my last name anyway when I get married. What's the point?" So this woman, even despite all the shit that has happened in the last few years, chose me. Needless to say, I agreed. And we both sobbed like children and watched Was in a Hug PP. That was thanks to the commentator. Now I know it's a musical. During my entire stay on campus, my mother sent only one message saying that she needed time to think and needed to be alone. I didn't answer. I just turned off her notifications. While on campus, I found several organizations working in my professional field that also offer internships with scholarship payment and full-time contracts after successful completion of the program. My business seems to be over soon, and I will be able to start working again to recover my savings. Otherwise, I think everything is fine. Definitely, my head has brightened. Definitely ready for release. Thanks to everyone who wrote me words of support and gave me advice. Even the harshest of them helped. Sometimes tough love is needed. 4 lines. Mom knows that she did wrong, but she doesn't want to change. Jessica got angry and interceded for me, and now Mom lives with her ex-husband and brother. Jessica is taking me in. A few weeks passed, and the feeling of uncertainty about my family did not leave me. I decided that I no longer want to be isolated from my feelings and experiences related to my mother and brother. After everything that happened, I realized that I needed an action plan. A specialist at the university helped me understand my emotions and taught me how to set boundaries. I knew I had to talk to my mom again. One evening, when I returned home, I realized that the more I kept my feelings inside, the more it would make me vulnerable to manipulations on her part. I decided that I had to express everything that had accumulated during this time. When we sat down with Mom and Jessica, I started talking. I talked about my anxiety, about how hard it was to see that she continues to support my brother after all his actions. I explained that the fear of keeping my safety becomes unfairly heavy for me. My mother, unexpectedly, loudly objected, saying that she needed time to restore relations with her brother. Every time she said his name, I felt anger growing in me. After this conversation, the atmosphere at home became significantly tense. I tried to find support from Jessica, but even she was disoriented by my mother's behavior. At some point, it became clear that my decision to be honest opened a new deep crack in our relationship. Meanwhile, my mother came into direct interaction with my brother. She began to meet him often, completely ignoring our conversations and warnings. Watching this, I suddenly realized that I just needed to get away from all this. One evening, after consulting with Jessica, I packed up and stayed with her. Spending a lot of time together, we found that our connection was only strengthened. For the first time, I felt safe and freely expressed my emotions without fear of getting a negative reaction. Meanwhile, Mom tried to get in touch with us again. She called and wrote messages, apologized for past words, and did everything possible to bring me back. But this path has already become different. With each new message, I realized that it was impossible to hold this old speaker. Sometime after I returned to the campus, I received a letter from the university about an internship in a company that I had been dreaming about for a long time. This gave me the opportunity to break out of the vicious circle that began to form around the relationship with my mother and brother. During this period, I managed to understand my priorities, wanting to build my life on my own terms. I understood that I could not continue to try to change people who are not ready to change. Everything ended a kind of circle. Instead of crossing with my brother's shadow and the intrigues of my beloved mother, I found a new goal. At the graduation, I sat among the successes achieved. I let go of old grievances. They were no longer part of my identity. The most important lesson for me was that the family is not always those who are related by blood. They can be close to you in spirit, like Jessica. It was a new beginning for me, for my future, and for the life I wanted to build myself.